Hey friends, happy day or evening or weekend or whatever it is, wherever you are. We're gonna get moving with another intermediate flow, funky, creative, fun, challenging sequence. Another video, another opportunity for me to figure out this mic. I think we're good. I think that there are gonna be no more problems now that I'm maneuvering the new microphone situation. I have gotten a couple of really kind emails giving some suggestions about the mic, like getting a headset that I am definitely going to consider. But keep the conversation going. I appreciate your patience with me as I navigate this new tech record yoga videos world. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm thankful that you guys are continuing to practice and this community is growing, and it's so fun and really near and dear to my heart. So with all that said, I've announced it twice. I'll announce it one or two more times. In January, I'm going to be leading a month-long series of meditations. They're going to be live on Instagram, although you can access them later if the live times doesn't work for your time zone. It's happening through a private Instagram page, and you access it through my website. So NicoleWildCollective.com. I will put it below for you to access it. It's totally donation based, and 10% of the donations that come in, I'm putting back out, donating back out to 4 different charities, and you choose your cause upon registering. So good way to give back, good way to start the year with some meditation, completely donation based, so no minimum requirement for you to give to join in. Let's move. Okay, let's come to a forward fold at the back of the mat. Bring the feet to hip-width distance apart. And let's just clasp opposite elbows here. Find a bit of a sway from side to side, dropping the head. And I encourage here, as I often do, that you find a big open mouth exhale. So big in-breath through the nose, filling the lungs, and then a big exhale to let whatever energy from before move through. And you can continue this if it feels good, open mouth exhales. I think of them as an opportunity to let stagnant energy become unstuck and let it go. So if there's something you need to let go of to find presence, big open mouth exhales with the intention of letting it move through. One more breath here. And then releasing the hands down towards the mat. One vertebrae at a time. Let's take an inhale to roll up the spine. Take this really, really slow. Pull the chin in towards the chest so that head and neck are last to lift. Sweep the arms up overhead at the top. Interlace the fingers, except the index and the thumb. Lift up and out of the waist. Tuck the tailbone forward. Strong engagement in the glutes. Baby, baby, back bend, opening up the heart. Really gentle, really small movement here. Inhale to release the little baby, micro back bend. Bend into the right elbow. We're gonna bring the palm to the back between the shoulder blades. Left hand comes to the right elbow. You can use the left hand to pull the right hand down the back. So opening up into the right tricep and into the shoulder. Lift up and out of the waist and then lean over to the left. Inhale to come back through center. Keep the right hand where it is. We're going to bring left hand behind, working towards clasping fingers. I'm just turning so you can see, but you don't need to twist your body. And the hands may or may not clasp. Totally fine if they don't. We're just going for some shoulder opening right off the bat here. And then we're just going to swap it out. So left hand to the back between the shoulder blades, right hand to the left elbow. And you can use the right hand to pull the left hand down the back. Lift up and out of the waist, and then exhale, lean over to the right. Spin the left shoulder open just a little bit, and then knit the rib cage in, so there's no back bend in this shape. And then inhale to come back through center. Left hand stays as it is. Right hand reaches behind, working towards clasping fingers. You might notice if one side is totally different from the other. For me, it is for sure. Not that it's right or wrong, but just acknowledging the differences between left and right side of the body. And then releasing the hands. Let's swing both arms back up overhead. Full range of motion in the shoulder girdle. We're gonna swing the hands behind the back until they interlace. Lift the tailbone just a bit, so slight bend into the knees. You can pull the heart through the shoulders, shoulders onto the back body. And then keep this clasp of the hands as you dive the heart forward, straightening out the legs. Release the head. And on your exhale, release the hands down to the mat. We're gonna walk ourselves all the way forward into a plank pose, and then even past a plank pose, hollowing out the plank. So glutes are engaged, tailbone tucks up and in, so core is strong here. If this is too much, drop the knees to the floor. If you're not feeling a challenge, walk the hands even farther forward. Firing up the core right away here. And then on your exhale, drop the elbows down to the mat, so elbows land underneath the shoulders. And we're gonna walk the toes in towards the elbows, coming straight to Dolphin Pose. In this shape, elbows are underneath the shoulders. If you can, all 10 finger pads and knuckle pads are rooted to the mat, so the palms are flat. Press the floor away from you, as if you're trying to lift up and away from the floor, lifting up out of the shoulders. On your inhale, sweep the right toes high. Bend the knee, open up the hip. And then release the right toes back down. Inhale, left toes lift. Bend the knee, open the hip. Keep pressing the floor away from you with the forearms. Lift up and out of the shoulders. Left toes drop back down to the mat. Walk yourselves back into a forearm plank. And then press back into a hollowed out plank. So lift the elbows. Tuck tailbone. Engage the glutes. On your exhale, we're gonna walk the hands back into a plank shape. So wrists underneath the shoulders. And then just simply roll the hips back into a down dog, kicking the heels towards the floor, the heart back towards the thighs. And what I'm gonna invite here is that we find a little bit of a bounce with the upper body. Not so much that it feels like aggressive is the word that comes to mind. We definitely don't want it to feel aggressive. We don't want to overdo it, so definitely want to avoid, of course, as always, avoid any injury, but just a gentle little bounce. Opening up into the shoulders, strengthening out the arms. And then on your exhale, let's walk the feet to the top of the mat, landing in our forward fold there. Once you've landed at the top of the mat, walk the feet wide, bend into the knees, Malasana, Yogi squat. Palms come to touch at the heart. For a moment, we're gonna press the elbows into the knees. So you're pressing the knees apart from each other and tractioning really long in the spine. You can either hang out right here, or you can try to keep the legs exactly as they are and just lift the elbows up. So now you're using the strength of the glutes and maybe the hips to keep the legs pulling apart from each other. And then if it feels supported in the knees, a little bit of mobility here, you can pivot onto the right toes and see if you can tap the right knee into the center of the mat, and then come back through center and then over to the left. Back through center, back and forth a couple of times, knowing that if this causes pain in the knee or in the hip, don't do it. That goes for now and always. But getting some mobility into the knee and into the hip joint. Last one, meeting back in your yogi squat. For a moment, let's interlace all 10 fingers and roll out the wrists. And then switch direction of the circles. And then release the hands, lift the hips, forward fold, Uttanasana. Walk the feet all the way together. Squeeze the inner thighs together, squeeze the heels together, and then bend into the knees as you inhale, come up, chair pose. Sending hips back, sending heart forward, slight tuck of the tailbone. Ground through the feet as you rise through standing, palms come to touch. Little back bend at the top, let it feel good. And then exhale, drive the heart forward, Uttanasana. In breath to halfway lift, lengthen out the spine. Exhale to release, plant the hands, step back, high plank, wrists under shoulders. Elbows graze rib cage as you lower down halfway. The knees can always drop down. Inhale, high plank, press back up. Come to the outside edge of the right foot, sweep left fingertips high. We're gonna circle the left hand towards the front of the room, pull the hips up towards the ceiling. On your inhale, come back through center, high plank, and on your exhale, halfway lower hover. Inhale, high plank, press back up. Come to the outside edge of the left foot. Right fingertips sweep high. Circle the right hand towards the front of the room, lengthening out down right side body, lift the hips. On your inhale, come back through center, high plank. Slow motion, lower all the way down to the belly. Untuck the toes, bring the hands wider than the mat and tent the fingertips. Pressing into the fingers on your inhale, lift the heart. Roll the shoulders onto the back body like you're threading the heart through to the front of the room. And then exhale to release back down. Hands plant underneath the shoulders, curl onto the toes, but keep the knees also grounded to the mat. We're gonna come up onto fingertips here, so the palms are lifted, the hands are tented. If this is too much for the wrists, you can drop the palms to the floor. But otherwise, pressing into the fingertips on your exhale, we're gonna press up into a tabletop position with the palms lifted. And then exhale, round through the back body, tucking tailbone down, chin in towards chest, and clamshelling the back of the rib cage open. Drop the palms to the floor as you inhale, open up the heart, lift tailbone, lift gaze. Keep this open heart as you bend the elbows, lower chin in towards chest. Sorry, that's not what I meant. Lower chest towards floor. Chin stays lifted. And then as we press back up, we're gonna shift to the fingertips, lift the palms, round the back body. We've done these 1 or 2 times before. We're gonna take another round, drop the palms to the floor as you open the heart, lift the tailbone, lift the gaze, and then elbows bend. Keep the heart open as you lower chin and chest towards floor. As you press back up, shift to the fingertips, active round through the back body, tailbone tucks. And then coming back to a neutral spine, drop the palms, tuck onto the toes and lift the hips up and back, downward dog. Come up high onto the toes. Deep bend into the knees. Exhale, step, walk, hop, or float, or handstand, landing at the top of the mat, forward fold. Inhale to halfway lift. Lengthen the spine. Exhale to let it go. Inhale to rise, come through standing. Palms touch overhead, maybe a little back bend. And on your exhale, dive the heart forward, Uttanasana. In breath to halfway lift and lengthen. We're gonna meet in our down dog. If you wanna play with a handstand or a crow pose along the way, you can. Otherwise, you're just planting the hands, stepping back to your high plank, and maybe moving through a vinyasa. But whatever movement you take, you're connecting it with the breath. So there's no right or wrong way to move ever in this practice, as long as you're moving in a way that honors your body. All right, Sun A, we'll do that 2 more times. Exhale, step, walk, hop, play, make something up. Land at the top of the mat, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, let it go. Inhale, rise, come through standing, palms touch. Little back bend, open the heart. Exhale, dive forward, Uttanasana. In breath, half lift, lengthen spine, and then exhale, release. Planting hands, step or hop or play. So crow pose or an inversion or something else is an option. You can also just simply step straight back to a down dog. You can always skip the flows. Whatever you do, no need to rush it. Even if I am moving faster than your breath, stay with you. 1 more round, either you're with me or you're moving at your own pace, either is great. Exhale, step, walk, hop, float, play, land in your forward fold, Uttanasana. Rebound to halfway lift, and then exhale, maybe open the mouth, let it go. Inhale, rise, come through standing, palms touch. Back bend if that feels good, open the heart. Exhale, lead with heart forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, half lift, lengthen. 1 more time, fold, plant the hands, step, hop, play, invert. Make something up. Let it be your practice. Move with breath on the way towards downward dog. One full cycle of breath here, letting yourself land so that we can really meet the shape before we move into the next sequence. May even drop the head here. I really like to do this in my down dog, actively pulling the chin in towards the chest. So you're inviting length down the back of the neck. We spend so much time in our front bodies, but how often do we bring attention to what we're doing in the back of the body? Come onto the toes, bend into the knees. Exhale to the top of the mat, forward fold. Rebound, so once the feet meet the mat, rebound halfway lift. Open the mouth, exhale, let it go. Stay folded forward, cross the right ankle over the left ankle. Micro bend into the left knee. We want to make sure the joint space is protected. Hands can stay in center or they can walk over to the right. Inhale, hands walk back through center. Uncross the right ankle and swap it out. So left ankle crosses over the right. Little micro bend in the right knee, the joint space to be protected. Hands can stay in the center or walk over to the left. Again, this brings the stretch into the outer right hip and into the IT band. Drop the head. And then using your inhale, walk the hands back through center. Uncross the feet all the way together. Squeeze inner thighs together. Shift onto the toes in our forward fold. Think of pulling the tailbone up towards ceiling. And then staying on the toes, see if you can roll up the spine one vertebrae at a time. Keep squeezing inner thighs together. Always okay if you fall out and come back in. It's okay to be wobbly and imperfect. Swing arms up overhead. And then on your exhale, as you bring palms to meet in front of the heart, also soften the heels to the mat, close the eyes. Check in with body at this point in practice. We're going to start picking up the pace a bit. But notice how it feels when you invite movement in and when you start to connect with breath. Soft opening of the eyes as you shift weight into the left foot. We're going to bring right knee up into the chest. And then bend into the left knee as you stack the right knee on top of the left. Maybe you find the double clasp eagle legs. Sit a little bit deeper in the standing leg. On your inhale, arms extend up overhead. And on your exhale, we're just gonna pretend someone was pulling your hips to the back of the room as you reach the fingertips forward, but knit the rib cage up and in. So reaching fingertips forward as you're pulling the hips back and inviting some length into the low back. As you come back up with the upper body, we're going to pull the right knee back up into the chest and extend the right leg forward towards the front of the room. Pull the toes back. Again, lifting up and out of the waist, pull the rib cage in. Slow bend into the left knee until eventually the hips come all the way down to the floor. But see how long you can maintain control without collapsing down. Sometimes the collapse is necessary. Sometimes it's the only option. That's okay too. Lift up and out of the waist. On your exhale, we're just going to fold forward over the right leg. And we have a couple of options here. This is a lot of compression in the left hips. You can stay right here. Or you can work towards binding the hands around the left thigh. Softening the heart towards the top of the right thigh. Dropping the nose towards right knee. We've done this one before. I think even maybe in the last video. Sometimes I lose count or lose track. Pull the right toes back. Release the bind if you've got it. Come back up through standing just with the upper body. We're going to plant the hands and lift the hips just enough that we can pull the right knee into the chest and step the right toes to the back of the mat. And we're straightening out the left leg. So both legs are straight here. We're in kind of a long pyramid pose. You're on the ball of the right foot. Option here to lift the left toes. So grounding the left heel into the mat. Pulling left hip back, keeping a micro bend in the left knee. And then softening the left toes down, rebend into the left knee as you pivot open warrior two. So right foot spins flat, reach long through the fingertips. We're gonna bring left arm up and overhead behind the back. So left palm between the shoulder blades, right hand reaches around like you're trying to interlace fingers. May or may not happen, which is totally fine. Lift up and out of the waist, and then we're reversing our warrior from here. So leaning to the right elbow kind of towards the right thigh. Lift up and out of the waist. On your inhale, let's come back through center. Keep this clasp of the hands if you can, but know that at any point you can release it. We're coming all the way down into a Skandasana. So hips on top of the right heel. Again, if you need to drop the hands to the floor for support, you can. Inhale back up, warrior two. And then on your exhale, back down, Skandasana, maybe with the shoulder opener. Last one, come all the way back up, warrior two. And then we're gonna release the hands as we come down, palms come to touch with the heart. Drop the hips all the way to the floor. Maybe you need to use the hands to get there. You're gonna bring your left hand to your right ankle. I apologize, my back is to you. Left hand is at the right ankle. Right arm comes up and over, so you're reaching the right hand towards the left foot, although it may or may not reach. Spin the right shoulder open, so you're reaching the heart towards sky, spinning the heart towards sky. Last big cycle of breath here. Again, totally fine if right hand does not reach the left foot. Inhale to come back up through center. We're gonna lift the hips and we're pivoting to the back of the mat. So left hand to the floor, come to the ball of the left foot, right fingertips sweep open. So you should now be facing the back of the mat. Or if you're not, that's fine. Just try to do the same thing on both sides. Reach right hand towards the now front of the mat. Root into the right foot. On your inhale, we're gonna come all the way to standing. Keep the twist. Right hand reaches for the left thigh as the left arm comes up and over. On your exhale, cartwheel the hands, frame out the right foot. Kick back into a three-legged plank. So right toes an inch above the floor. And then keeping the hover, elbows bend as you lower halfway. On your exhale, press up. As you do, pull the right knee to nose. Inhale to kick back, right foot to a hover, bend into the elbows, and then press back up, right knee to nose. Last one, kick the right toes back, lower all the way to the belly, keep the right foot lifted, untuck the left toes, and then you're just pulling the right toes as high as you can off the mat. So engaging into the right glutes. Roll the shoulders onto the back body, maybe lift the heart just a bit. And then on your exhale, release. Down, plant the hands, curl onto the toes, press all the way up, high plank, and then on your exhale, roll the hips back, downward dog. All right, funky sequence, second side. Exhale, step, walk, hop, float, handstand, land at the now, top of your mat, forward fold. Again, noting that this technically was the back of your mat at the start of the last flow. Inhale to halfway lift, lengthen. Exhale, let it go. Inhale to rise, come through standing, palms touch overhead. And then exhale, hands to heart center, palms meet. Okay, we get to do it again. Weight comes into the right foot. Oh, I'm glad I remembered that. Left knee stacks on top of the right. Maybe you find the double clasp, knowing that the deeper you sit in your standing leg, the more you'll create the space for the double clasp. Arms are gonna reach up overhead. Think of lifting up and out of the waist. And then imagine someone was pulling your hips back behind you as you reach the fingertips forward. So someone's pulling your hips back and someone else is pulling your hands forward, as if you're just trying to create length in the spine, space between each vertebrae. On your inhale, come back up through center. As you straighten out through the right leg, pull left knee up into the chest, and then straighten the left leg forward. Left toes pull back. Keep pulling left foot high. A lot of engagement in the quads and in the hip flexors. And then start to take a bend into the right knee. Slowly, the slower you go, the more challenging it becomes, until the hips eventually land all the way down onto the mat. Lift up and out of the waist, and then on your exhale, fold the upper body forward. So hands to frame out the left leg. Drop the head. Again, option if you want it to work towards the bind, bringing left hand behind the back. And maybe you just reach left hand for the right inner thigh, or maybe you work towards actually interlacing the hands. Again, this is a lot of compression in the right hip, so may or may not make it too far forward. That's totally fine. One more breath. And then releasing bind. If you've got it, sit back up through center. With or without the hands, we're gonna lift the hips, pull the left knee into the chest, and step the left toes to the back of the mat. Right leg straightens. You are on the ball of the left foot. Option to ground into the right heel and lift the right toes up off the mat. Again, shifting right hip back, left hip forward, softening heart towards the top of the right thigh. Last exhale to sink a little deeper into the stretch. And then dropping right toes, rebend into the right knee, pivot, open warrior to Virabhadrasana 2. Twist the upper body to the left so that shoulders stack on top of the hips. Reach long through the fingertips to start. And then again, we're going for this shoulder opener. Right hand comes above, so right palm to the back between the shoulder blades, and then left hand behind. Working towards interlacing fingers, may or may not happen. Engage into the glutes, and then side bend to the left as if you were reversing the warrior. Lifting up and out so that we're lengthening the right side body without collapsing into the left. Release the reverse. So come back through center. Keep the clasp of the hands or let it go if you need to. We're going to straighten out the right leg, bend into the left knee, Skandasana at the back of the mat. Keep the hips lifted. Big opening in the right hip and lengthening of the inner thighs. Inhale to come back up. Virabhadrasana 2. 2 more times. Bend into the left knee. Hips drop on top of left heel. And then inhale, bring it back up. Last one. Straighten right leg, bend into the left knee. Hips drop all the way down to the mat. Release the clasp of the hands if you haven't already. And then again, option here to bring right hand to the left ankle. Left arm reaches up and over. But again, knowing that we're going for the side body stretch, so think of spinning the heart up towards the sky and spinning left shoulder to stack on top of right, as if your back were flat up against a wall. So spinning heart up towards ceiling. One more breath. And then using your inhale, come back up through center. With or without the hands, we're gonna lift the hips. Pivot back to the top of the mat. So right hand plants, shift to the ball of the right foot, left fingertips open up. Spinning heart towards sky to the left. Start to root into the left foot as we inhale, come all the way to standing. Keep the twist to the left side of the mat and open up to your reverse. Left hand to the back of the right thigh, right arm comes up and over. Feels so good in the psoas. On your exhale, cartwheel the hands, frame out the left foot. Kick back to a hover with the left foot, left toes flexed. And then with the foot to a hover, bend into the elbows, lower halfway. Elbows hug into the rib cage. And then as you press back up, pull the left knee to nose. Keep the wrists under shoulders as you kick the left foot back. Bend into elbows, lower the chest, and then press back up. Left knee pulls in. Last one, kick the left foot back, slow motion, lower all the way to the belly. Untuck the right toes, point out the left foot, and then as much as you can, you're engaging into the left glutes and hamstrings to pull the left toes high. If there's pain in the low back, you've gone too far. We're really just using the strength of the left glutes and left hamstrings, point out the left toes. Maybe you roll shoulders onto back body, pull the heart forward, and then exhale, release down. Hands are planted underneath the shoulders. Curl onto the toes. With knees either grounded to the floor or lifted, we're gonna press all the way up to a high plank. And then exhale, roll the hips back, downward dog. Couple cycles of breath here. Big open mouth, exhale. All right, we're gonna play a little bit more and then we're gonna make our way down in not too long. Using your next exhale, ripple the spine forward, high plank. Take a big step forward with both hands, like we have done before, hollowing out the pose. And then drop the elbows to the mat. So elbows underneath the shoulders, press the floor away, and then walk the toes in for a dolphin pose. We have been here before at the beginning of practice. Strong through the shoulders, lift the right toes high, and then bend the knee and open up the hips. So you're pointing right knee up towards ceiling. Okay, I'm throwing you guys into the fire here. It's okay if you need to modify or if this is not available. Play with pressing into both hands and lifting the elbows from the floor, keeping the right knee bent, the knee pointed open. And then once you're there, option to spin the left foot a little bit flat to create some support. Maybe you come up onto left fingertips, maybe left hand reaches around for the right toes. If you get the clasp of the foot, then a little bit of a kick into the hand. All right, left hand comes back down to the mat if it is not there. On your exhale, bring the right knee to the right armpit, as high up on the arm as you can, and then step the right foot to the outside of the right hand. Drop the hips down, soften the left knee down, Come up high onto the fingertips as if you're trying to pull the heart towards the front of the room. Rolling shoulders onto back body. And then on your exhale, you might lower down onto forearms. You have the option in this shape of bending into the left knee and reaching right hand around for the left toes. If that causes tension in the knee, then you've gone too far. Just one more cycle of breath. We're not hanging here for too long. Drop the left toes if you've got them. Press up to the hands if you've lowered down. Let's lift the left knee from the mat. Take a big step forward, Malasana, Yogi squat. So hips drop low, elbows to the knees, hands to touch at the heart. Traction the spine really tall. We're gonna lift the elbows off of the knees. Keep using the strength of the glutes to pull the knees away from each other. And then if it feels okay in the knee joints, right knee to the center of the mat, and then back through center, and then maybe left knee to the center of the mat, back through center. Just one more each side. Again, if it's too much for the knees or the hip, let it go. And then meeting back in center, arms extend up overhead. And using your exhale, let's lift the hips, drive the heart forward. Feet are a little bit wide, so it's a little bit of a wide-legged forward fold. Bring peace fingers to the big toes to hold on to the big toes. Pull heart back towards the thighs. Drop the head. And then releasing the clasp of the hands, one vertebrae at a time. Let's roll up the spine so feet are a little bit wide. Turn the toes out to a 45-degree. Deep bend into the knees, palms come to touch at the heart. So finding kind of a squatted shape. Let's bring arms up overhead, lifting up and out of the waist. And then we're gonna drop the hands to the knees. Take a big in breath. On your exhale, drop the right shoulder down, twisting the upper body to the left. Inhale to come back through center. Exhale, twist over to the right. Inhale to come back through center. Keep the squat. Bring arms up overhead and then shift the weight to the toes so that the heels lift. Slight tuck of the tailbone. Maybe you sink even a little bit deeper in the shape. And then as you drop the heels to the floor, straighten out the legs and bring palms to touch at the heart. Toes point forward, dive the heart, finding our wide forward fold. Inhale to halfway lift, lengthen out the spine. On your exhale, we can release planting hands. Maybe you add in a crow pose if you want it, if it feels available. Knees to the backs of the arms. Maybe one foot lifts, maybe both feet lift. Maybe you take it somewhere else, inversion. Maybe you skip it. Next place we meet is in our down dog. So you can step back, hop back, vinyasa back. Whatever carries you back to our downward dog. Same little short and funky sequence on the other side. And then we're gonna start to slow things down. On your exhale, ripple spine forward, high plank. Take a big step forward with both hands. Last time here, hollowing out our plank. Press floor away, so biceps up towards the ears. And then on your exhale, lower the elbows down towards the mat. Slight tuck of the tailbone, glutes engage. And then we're walking the toes in towards the elbows, finding our dolphin pose. Pull the heart back towards the tops of the thighs. And then on your next inhale, we're gonna kick the left foot high. Bend the knee, open up the hip, so it's like you're trying to point the left knee up towards ceiling. And then pressing all 10 finger pads and knuckle pads down into the mat. Maybe you lift the elbows up into our three-legged down dog. Option here, and again, modify wherever you're at, wherever you need. You might bring right fingertips to the floor. You might work on reaching right hand around for the left toes. And again, in order to find stability, I kind of spin my right foot flat a little bit. And I use my left pointer finger and thumb as brakes. And then releasing right hand back down to the mat. Bring left knee forward to the left armpit as high as you can on the arm, and then step the left foot to the outside of the left hand. Drop the hips down, drop the right knee down. Come high onto the fingertips to start. Again, it's like you're pulling the heart to the front of the room, lifting tall out of the waist. And then as you're ready, you can either stay on the hands or you can lower down to forearms. And you have the option of bending into the right knee. And reaching left hand around for the right toes. Again, always just an option. Let it feel good. Maybe you close the eyes. Check in with how body is feeling at this point in the practice. And then releasing the right toes if you've got them. Pressing up to hands if you've lowered down. Lift the right knee. Big step forward, Malasana, Yogi squat. This time, right hand reaches off to the right side of the mat, left fingertips peel open, we're twisting out the upper body. Option to stay here or work towards the bind, left hand behind the back. We're interlacing hands around the right knee. And then releasing bind if you've got it. Come back through center, swap it out. Left hand to the left side of the mat, right fingertips open up. Either staying here or working towards bind. And releasing the bind. If you've got it, come back through center. We're going to extend both arms directly up overhead, pull the back of the heart into the space behind you. And then on your exhale, lift the hips, dive the heart forward, forward fold. Again, feet are about towards the edges of the mat, one vertebrae at a time. Let's roll up the spine, making our way all the way to standing. This time, toes point out slightly. We're going to bring hands to interlace at the base of the skull. So elbows pull apart towards the back of the mat, and then deep bend into the knees. If you need to walk the legs farther apart, you can. Lift up and out of the waist, tuck the tailbone. Maybe you shift onto the toes. That is optional. It will make it more challenging. On your exhale here, we're going to lean the upper body to the right, like you're bringing the right knee towards the right elbow, although it may or may not actually reach. Inhale to come back through center. And then exhale over to the left. Left knee to the left elbow. Spin the right shoulder open. Inhale to come back through center. Sit a little bit deeper. Pull the elbows apart. And then drop the heels to the floor. Straighten out the legs. We're going to keep the hands to interlace, but walk the feet into hip width distance apart. Now we're going to pull the elbows in towards each other. Pull the chin in towards the chest actively, and then one vertebrae at a time, we're going to roll down to a forward fold. And once you find yourself in a forward fold with the hands clasped at the base of the skull, pulling the elbows in towards each other and the chin in towards the chest, find a little bit of a bounce with the upper body. And bringing some length into the low back, all the way into the base of the skull. The muscles around the occiput. And then releasing the hands down towards floor. On your inhale, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale to release. One more opportunity to play if you wanted a crow pose or a handstand or another inversion or shape along the way. Next place we meet is in our down dog. No rush to get there. Maybe a big open mouth exhale. We're going to start to slow things down. Let's soften the knees to the floor. We're going to turn to the side of our mat. Really doesn't matter too much what side. I'm turning to the left. We're going to work into a frog pose. Favorite / least favorite hip opener. It's a toughie. Or it's an intense one, at least for me and my body. Okay, so we're starting on the knees. And in frog pose, you're simply walking the knees away from each other, turning the toes out. So in this shape, we want the hips to stay in line with the knees, so your hips aren't way far forward and they're not way far back like a child's pose. The knees are also in line with the heels, so the legs aren't, or the shins aren't too far out or in. So hips in line with knees in line with heels, toes pointing out. You can come down onto forearms. And sometimes, to kind of meet the shape and find the challenge, you can shift the hips forward and back just a little bit until you find the point that is with most sensation. And the trick to this shape is simply hanging out in it. So we're going to take many cycles of breath here. And you might even think of sending the breath to the point in the body where there is most sensation. So likely it will be the hips, but in any yoga pose or in any stretch, in any shape, you're gonna feel it where you're tight. So if there's somewhere else that you feel it more, that's okay too. Just showing you where you're tight. If you're not feeling it, you can walk the knees farther apart from each other. Couple more big cycles of breath here. Man, this pose is intense, in my body at least. All right, when we work our way out of this shape, I encourage you to take your time. You could either try to walk the knees in towards each other kind of gracefully, or you can do what I do and just kind of collapse forward onto the belly. Oh my gosh, it hurts. Ooh. And maybe let's all come to the belly. Bend into the knees and just windshield wiper the legs from side to side. Ouch. Why does that hurt so much? Okay, maybe we do a challenge and we do frog pose in every class from now for the next couple months. What do you guys think? Tell me what you think of that. Okay, let's come back through center. We're gonna come up into a seat. You can shift back towards the top of the mat and extend the legs forward. Pull the toes back, sit up tall out of the waist. Arms reach up overhead, and then exhale to fold. Hands could land on the feet, or they might reach the floor, or maybe somewhere along the legs. Drop the head. Maybe you guys can share in the comments what pose you feel tightest in, like what's the shape that for me frog pose is like, oh my gosh, that's so intense. And we can start doing longer holds in these practices. Keep pulling toes back, last couple breaths here. And then inhale to come up through center. Bend into the knees, bottoms of the feet together, sit up tall out of the waist. Hold on to the big toes. And then keeping a tall spine, exhale, fold forward. Press the elbows into the inner thighs or into the shins. And you might just notice where you feel this in your body. It's definitely a hip stretch, kind of its main purpose, but as we fold forward, we're also bringing a lot of release into the low back, which is equally important. Inhale to come back up through center. Keep the knees bent, pulling at the feet. One more time, little windshield wiper with the legs side to side. And then finding our way back through neutral. Fingertips extend forward. Let's roll down the spine one vertebrae at a time, making our way all the way down onto the back. Pull the knees into the chest. Extend the legs up overhead. And then dropping the arms down by the sides, use the strength of the core to lift the hips and roll open into a plow pose. So big stretch for the back body. Be mindful of the head and neck. If there's tension there, then please come out of the shape. And then one vertebrae at a time. Roll down the spine. Cross the right ankle on top of the left knee. Right arm threads through, left arm reaches around, so we're finding a reclined pigeon in figure 4. The closer you pull the legs towards the body, the deeper the stretch will be, but also as you pull the legs in, make sure that you keep the low back engaged with the floor, so you're not lifting the hips in order to bring the legs in closer. Extend the arms out to a T. Right knee stacks all the way on top of the left. Maybe you find the double clasp for eagle legs. And then exhale, let both legs fall over to the left. So finding your supine twist with eagle legs or any other variation that feels good here. And then using your inhale, come back through center, and we'll swap it out. Starting with figure 4, left ankle crosses over the right knee. Left arm threads through, right arm reaches around. And inviting the legs in towards the body, but without lifting the hips up from the floor. And last big breath here. And then releasing the arms out to a T. Left knee stacks all the way on top of the right knee. Maybe you find the double clasp. And with your exhale, legs drop over to the right while keeping the upper body rooted down. So left shoulder is not to lift in order to bring the legs closer to the floor. We're kind of rinsing out the internal organs here, and we're twisting all the way up the spine. So the twist is from the tailbone into really the shoulders, but if you want to bring the twist all the way through the crown of the head, you can bring the gaze over to the left fingers. Inhale to come back through center, unravel the legs, knees in towards chest, big in breath here. And then on your exhale, we land all the way down into Shavasana. So legs extend long. Arms drop out by the sides and get cozy here. And as I've said in the past, if the impulse is to turn the video off at this point in the practice at Shavasana and go back into your day or evening, I encourage you to stay for these last minutes, letting Shavasana be kind of a bookend of the practice. Knowing that as much as we need movement in our bodies and movement in our lives, that it's a necessity. That equally, this pause and this stillness and this meditative space is equally important. And if we're always going and we're never taking this pause, then we're not giving ourselves the room to integrate or to recover or to really know ourselves separate from that which we do. So especially if it's challenging, I encourage you to let yourself land here and settle into the silence for these last couple of minutes together. And before we begin any sort of transition out, take the deepest in breath that you've taken yet today. Holding at the top of your inhale, and then fill the lungs even a little bit more. Open the mouth for the exhale. Letting the energy of whatever came before move through so that you can find the present fully. And then letting this be a slow transition back. Start just by wiggling the fingers and the toes. And maybe inviting movement into the wrists and into the ankles. Extending arms up overhead for a full body stretch. Kicking through the heels, reaching through the fingers. And then knees pull in, and you have the option of rolling onto a side and pausing there for several cycles of breath. And the next place that we meet is all the way back up into a comfortable seat. Eyes closed along the way, and eyes closed once you land at the top. And I invite you in this last moment here to actually bring one hand to your heart and one hand to your belly, feeling into maybe even finding your heartbeat. And this heart which beats something like 100,000 times every day to keep you in this body. And the lungs that breathe in and out something like 60,000 times every day to keep you in this body. And really honoring that, staying with you as we also transition back out and meet the world. Can either keep hands on body or bring palms to touch at heart. And I thank you so much for moving with me, for sitting with me. Happy day, evening, week, weekend, whatever it is, wherever you are. Namaste. Thank you, guys.